Welcome to the Learn and Invest series. I'm your host, Mira Astros, and today we're unpacking the research of Gabriel B. Ajak in our episode, The Mechanics of Wealth, Human Capital, and Why Smart People Destroy Society. If you took all the money in the world and divided it equally among everyone, it would eventually return to the exact same pockets. If a person is handed $1 million, they have to quickly develop the mindset and skills of a millionaire, otherwise the capital invariably drains back to where it started. This illustrates Jim Rohn's law of proportional income. Experience shows an individual's income will always normalize to match their level of personal development. The money reflects the person. When we zoom out to the macroeconomic level, we see the exact same principle at play. When policymakers and academics use bureaucratic intervention to bypass the slow work of human capital development, they inadvertently destroy societal wealth. Modern society consistently misdiagnoses a lack of progress as a top-down resource problem, but a lack of money is usually just a symptom. The core issue is a deficit of actionable ideas and the discipline to execute them. Sustainable prosperity, whether for a single household or an entire nation, is an attracted state. It is drawn to continuous human development and repelled by systemic shortcuts. To understand how this works at the individual level, we look at the framework developed by entrepreneur Jim Rohn. His foundational axiom is direct. A person must learn to work harder on themselves than they do on their job. The first phase of wealth creation requires a shift in perspective. The primary obstacle you face is not a lack of capital. The actual disease is a lack of ideas. To cure it, you have to commit to a constant study of success and refuse to leave your life to chance. This demands continuous self-education and a specific method of observation. Rohn advised a dual approach, using sight with your eyes to watch what successful people do, and using insight with your mind to discover the answers behind their actions. Acquiring these ideas is entirely useless without the discipline to apply them. If learning only leads to the accumulation of knowledge, it produces nothing. Learning must directly translate into disciplined action. True discipline starts with micro-disciplines. By conquering small, manageable daily tasks, a person builds the practice and the muscle required to handle major challenges. Ignoring small responsibilities guarantees failure when large opportunities arrive. The final step is ethical execution. Once people learn how systems operate, some try to cut corners or seek cheap answers. Falling into this trap inevitably leads to a cheap life. You must determine the best way a system works and execute it properly, without compromising. Individual wealth is mathematically bound to a person's willingness to reject these shortcuts and fully embrace the rigorous reality of their own personal development. Please note, the information provided in this episode is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial or professional advice. If you find value in this research, please consider subscribing to the channel and supporting the Learn and Invest series so we can continue bringing you deep dives like this one. When we scale Jim Rohn's individual principles up to the societal level, we find the work of economist Dr. Thomas Sowell. Sowell's life journey closely mirrors that of our author, Gabriel B. Ajak. Both men were born into severe poverty and both worked their way out to achieve economic freedom. Ajak spent his early years as a refugee escaping the Sudanese war, living in camps like this one before reaching the United States. His journey shows that human capital, skills, discipline, and work ethic can be carried across borders and thrive. Sowell faced his own developmental hurdles growing up in the segregated South and later in Harlem. His trajectory shifted entirely at age 8, when a family friend introduced him to the public library. That early exposure to reading ignited a lifetime of self-education. Working as a young Western Union messenger in New York, Sowell saw a stark contrast between affluent neighborhoods and the tenements of Harlem. Traditional education offered him no answers for these disparities, so he gravitated toward the theories of Karl Marx. He maintained those Marxist views even through his early academic career. His intellectual wake-up call finally came during a summer internship at the U.S. Department of Labor, where he was assigned to research minimum wage loss. This chart illustrates exactly what Sowell discovered in the data. When the government mandated an artificial minimum wage hike, it directly caused a steep drop in employment for unskilled workers. The very people the policy claimed to help were priced out of the labor market. When Sowell presented a method to test this outcome further, he hit a wall. He realized that government bureaucrats cared more about preserving their own agendas and institutional survival than about the actual effectiveness of their policies on people experiencing poverty. This realization pushed Sowell to abandon ideology entirely. Mentored by Milton Friedman at the University of Chicago, Sowell adopted a rigorous, empirical methodology. He learned to defend positions using hard evidence and logic, rather than emotional reasoning. Top-down bureaucratic solutions consistently fail because they are structurally designed to protect the system itself, rather than develop the human capital of the individual. A central tenet of Sowell's worldview is that in economics and social policy, there are no perfect solutions. There are only trade-offs. Much like adjusting a camera settings requires trading light for focus, social policies always involve exchanging one benefit for another cost. Sowell applied this empirical lens to dismantle popular narratives, starting with the disintegration of the Black family. The prevailing theory blamed this breakdown on the legacy of slavery, but this timeline tracking historical data tells a different story. It reveals that the vast majority of Black families were intact, two-parent households from the end of slavery all the way through the 1920s and into the mid-century. The data remains stable until a sharp decline in family structure begins in the 1960s. This drop aligns perfectly with the massive expansion of the welfare state. Sowell argued that these welfare policies removed the social stigma of relief and actively incentivized failure. By replacing the necessity of an intact family unit with a government check, the state severely damaged community resilience. We see another devastating trade-off in Sowell's analysis of academic affirmative action, which led to his mismatch theory. This diagram models Sowell's findings. When universities lower academic standards to meet diversity quotas, they take capable students who would thrive in the top percentile of a standard academic environment and artificially place them in highly rigorous institutions where they are overmatched. The policy engineers failure by placing them in the bottom percentile. Sowell's empirical solution to educational disparity is to empower parents through school choice, allowing them to escape unresponsive public school monopolies and select environments that actually demand discipline. Whenever a system attempts to shortcut the rigorous process of skill acquisition, whether by handing out unearned welfare or engineering academic mismatches, it inevitably destroys the very human capital it claims to support. This brings us to a unified model of prosperity. The interventionist shortcut universally fails. At the micro level, Jim Rohn calls this the cheap life. At the macro level, Thomas Sowell identifies it as bureaucratic policy. Both attempt to bypass the necessary work. The only mathematically proven mechanism for economic stability is the disciplined, ethical development of human capacity. You cannot legislate capability, you have to build it. This leaves us with 3 critical reflection questions. Number 1, are your daily routines actively building your human capital, or are you relying on an intervention to save you? Number 2, when evaluating your career or community policies, are you looking for idealized solutions, or are you honestly calculating the empirical trade-offs? And number 3, if you do not change your actions starting tomorrow, your next 5 years will look exactly like your last 5. What specific micro-discipline must you adopt today to change that trajectory? Prosperity isn't something you pursue, and it's certainly not something a bureaucracy can grant you. True wealth is an attracted state, derived exclusively from continuous personal development and an unyielding commitment to empirical reality. To build it, you must commit to daily self-education. You must demand hard data over popular ideology. And above all, you must take ultimate responsibility for what you become in the process. Thank you for joining this deep dive into the mechanics of wealth and human capital. As always, learn and invest.
I stay grinding, I stay prepared. Life got a price tag.